Okay, let me share my screen. I think without any further delay, I think we can get started. So people can join in, okay, in few minutes. So we'll get started. Okay, let me share my screen. I can see Kalpana. Thank you for joining in early. I think, yeah, others can join in as well. So let me share my presentation. And I think, yeah, if you can, probably, I think only Kalpana is there at the moment. If you can quickly confirm in the chat. I know there are some restrictions, but if you can please confirm quickly whether my voice is clear and you can see my screen as well. Then I think I can, yeah, kickstart. A quick message, you can say clear. You can type in clear in the box so that I'm aware. Okay, so everything is okay. We can get started. Okay, thank you so much, Kalpana. I think, yeah, let's kickstart. Let me present this. Okay, yeah, thank you so much. I appreciate your time, from wherever you're joining. I really appreciate your time taking time during weekends, especially in the on the Saturday evening to listen to me for 1 hour. I hope I definitely promise you this session is going to be engaging and impactful, and you will gain a lot of insights during this session. So I'll make sure and I'll provide required insights and make it really impactful to you. Okay, so thank you first of all for taking time to join this session. And few expectations to quickly set before we jump on to the topic itself. So I think this is going to be like, you might have a lot of questions during the session. I really appreciate it. And I'm going to take that towards the end of the session. So if you have any questions, please reserve it for the end of the session. We will have probably 10 minutes or even 15 minutes. I'm happy to extend if you have a lot of questions as well. So we have planned it for 1 hour, but if there are a lot of questions, we can definitely discuss those. If I'm not able to answer, I can go back and do the groundwork or research and then come back to you if I'm not able to answer any tough questions from your side, right? So, but I think reserve those questions towards the end. I know during the topic presentation, you might have a lot of questions, but please reserve it for later. That's one which I wanted to quickly set before we even kickstart the topic. And I think, yeah, what else? I think we can kickstart. So let us dive into the topic, today's topic. We are going to talk about the Lakehouse plus Warehouse integration in Microsoft Fabric, right? So I think I'll quickly provide a brief overview of what are the topics that we are going to cover, and in business sense, why we need to look at this integration in first place, right? So there is this beautiful concept called OneLake. You might be aware already if you're already following my series, because this is the third video in my OneLake series. We already dived deep into Fabric OneLake mirroring, then OneLake security with the limited preview of data access roles in the last week's webinar. And this is the third in the series where we are going to talk about uh, the unified storage again, the one lake concept, and how we can leverage both the platforms like Lakehouse and Warehouse in Microsoft Fabric. In a business sense, you might be probably aware, I know probably when you can use Lakehouse. We are going to look at the design choices as well. Microsoft Guide. To help you with some of the criteria when you can choose Lakehouse or Warehouse, or even the hybrid is also possible, right? So there might be business scenarios where you can load your raw data in Lakehouse. It might be unstructured, and then you will do the required transformation and then prepare it, make it a structured data, and then serve it from warehouse. So that kind of a hybrid scenario is also possible in a business enterprise setting, right? So we are going to talk about all of those when it comes to the integration of these two platforms. So Lakehouse, by now, most of you, if you're in the data field, you might be aware the beauty of Lakehouse. And Warehouse, again, it is not gone, right? It is not died yet, I would say. So still it is out there. Even in Fabric, we have that platform, okay, purely for SQL BA workloads. We can definitely explore that. And as I mentioned, we are going to also talk about the hybrid kind of a setting as well, right? So all of this, I think we are going to look at different methods, the integration methods, how we can leverage, probably how we can bring the data from Lakehouse to Warehouse, or the other way around, how we can bring the data from the Warehouse to Lakehouse. Okay, what are the different methods you can use when it comes to integration in Fabric especially, right, for seamless analytics. Okay, so let's jump on a bit about me, and then we will see at Data Beyond Academy, we are focusing more on hands-on. Okay, so our focus is more on hands-on project-based learning. So I'm not going to take you through complete deck, and then we will jump onto the Fabric portal. So as and when we look through the concept and the deck, we will dive into Fabric and get some hands-on. We'll talk about there how we can navigate, how we can use that integration method quickly. We can explore and then come back to deck as well. Okay, so that's the core idea. Okay, so as much as hands-on than theoretical knowledge. Yeah, theoretical knowledge is important, I would say, but parallelly, we need to have that kind of hands-on to make sure we are confident enough to handle any enterprise level projects, I would say. Okay. Well, let us move on. A bit introduction about me. I'm Sheikh Mohammed. I'm a Microsoft certified trainer, cloud data architect. So I've been in IT for more than 15 years now, and I'm a Microsoft certified trainer, as I mentioned. And I've recently founded Data VN Academy. And the core mission is, as I mentioned, to make you into confident professionals through structured real world learning. So all of our courses we deploy is all pure real world end-to-end projects, so that you'll get that kind of a confidence to be deployed to projects. Okay, so that's the idea. And we have trained close to 500 plus students across India and Europe, and I'm an expert in Fabric, Azure, as well as Power BI and real-time data modeling as well. And that's a bit about me. I think we can jump on to the topic itself now. Right, so as I mentioned, I think we are in kind of a third video in this series. If you haven't seen my couple of other videos, I would encourage you to watch those videos like mirroring in OneLake. We have done demo on Azure SQL DB, how we have how you can kind of do that kind of a configuration to mirror your database. So we talked in detail about it, and about the OneLake security in the second deep dive, where we talked in detail about uh, the workspace, different security layers. We talked about it. Just a high level overview on what we talked about as a part of OneLake series, right? Because OneLake as a concept, as a technology, it's very powerful in Microsoft Fabric to unify the storage. So that's why I have been doing this series to help you to understand how we can leverage different capabilities within OneLake, right? And I think in the security, we also talked about a feature which is in limited preview currently, which is OneLake data access roles, wherein like a RBAC kind of a role, you can create custom roles and then restrict the data, and you can apply RLS, CLS right within the Lakehouse platform, and that is scoped within the Lakehouse. So I think we talked in detail about it. I have also posted few videos in my YouTube channel as well. You can go through that videos as well to gain some understanding on those two topics. But today we are going to talk about the pure integration between Lakehouse and Warehouse, and what are the different integration methods we can leverage between Lakehouse and Warehouse. Okay, so let us move on. And I think what are the learning outcomes quickly? So we are going to understand the architecture of Lakehouse plus Warehouse integration. And we are going to kind of look at, there are many methods, right? But we are going to look at three key methods, okay, integration methods when it comes to the integration between Lakehouse and Warehouse. And yeah, the demo will include, as I mentioned, how we can query the data, in Lakehouse, how we are going to talk in detail about shortcuts. That's one of the integration method, right? So if you have already heard about shortcuts, it's a groundbreaking technology, I would say, right? So to bring not only the internal data within Lakehouse, you can also bring in the data from external sources as well. That we will quickly look at in demo. And we are going to talk about CTAS. Okay, so how we can bring in the data from Lakehouse to Warehouse, how that is something you can leverage as well. And we are going to also talk about best practices for performance and governance. We are going to talk about direct lake technology. I hope most of you are aware, but I'm going to give you some insights about the direct lake technology. If you're into Power BI world, you might have already heard about a couple of other storage modes like the direct query mode and the import mode. But I'm going to probably talk a bit about direct lake technology because it really excites me. Okay, so how we can leverage the direct lake mode to talk to the underlying tables directly without copying or any duplication at all. Okay. So those are the learning outcomes, what we are looking at in this session. So let us move on. So I think a bit about OneLake. I hope most of you are aware. But a quick overview about OneLake, right? So why Microsoft came up with OneLake technology, right? So they wanted to kind of make it as a single logical data lake, or you can think of it as a OneDrive for organization, where you'll have all of the data residing in one single kind of it's built on top of ADLS Gen 2. Okay, if you're already aware in Azure platform, the storage account, hierarchical structural data lake. The same technology they have explored here as well. And I think it's the beauty about it is like you're going to bring in all of your data and keep it in one lake, and different compute engines like be it Spark engine, be it Power BI, or any engine like SQL engine, it talks to the underlying one lake and then do the required magic, right? So you can say. So that's all about one lake. And I hope you are a bit aware about it. So I'm just giving you a high level overview because okay. And any questions you have, feel free to keep it and reserve it for the session later, okay, towards the end of the session. Right. So I think Lakehouse, I don't probably want to give you a bit of introduction. I hope most of you are from diverse roles, okay, and experienced roles. I've already looked at the forms. So I think Lakehouse by now, I think it's in Delta format. It is an open format. All of the data that we are going to store, it's stored in the Parquet columnar format for analytical kind of for efficiency, you can say, and it's quite flexible as well. Right, and warehouse, it is purely structured SQL first BA optimized, and we are going to look at a Microsoft documentation, the design choice documentation. Okay, they have given some criteria. We will quickly look at when we come towards the middle of the session. And I'm going to show you what are the different criteria we need to keep in mind, because people might have this question always, right? When they're doing the design in an enterprise kind of a setting. So when they wanted to go for Lakehouse, when they wanted to go for warehouse, or when they wanted to go for a kind of a hybrid approach, right? So we will look at it. And I think integration made seamless. That's where OneLake comes into picture, right? So with the OneLake as the foundation, the underlying layer for your data, I think the integration made seamless. That's what we are going to talk about, different methods, and it's quite fast and simple. You just need to have that few lines of code, and then the shortcuts. In few clicks you can create those shortcuts and then bring in your data as well. But I think even though it's quite straightforward in the platform, you need to understand what is this technology and what we are trying to do, why we are doing it in first place, right? So why you need to kind of do that kind of a hybrid setting. So that's the reason you need to kind of make sure you have that kind of understanding, I would say, because I think Microsoft make it really easy for you to implement all of those within the Fabric portal, right? The SaaS platform. So we will look at it, but I hope you have those fundamentals. I assume you have all of those fundamentals intact, right? So we're not going to. This is not a kind of a fundamental session. This is kind of, you can say, intermediate to advanced. So where we're going to look at some of the methods, right? So assuming you already have some bit of a knowledge about warehouse technology and Lakehouse technology, right? Well, okay, let's move on. I think I also wanted to talk about, before I jump onto the methods, I wanted to talk about some of the benefits of unified storage, right? So what are the different benefits of OneLake unified storage? So there are quite a lot, but I know I'm going to highlight few to help you to understand. Okay, so this is why Microsoft came up with this technology, you can say, right? So I've highlighted few. So first, I think the most important thing is to eliminate the data silos, right? Between the data engineering teams and BA teams. As I mentioned, I think uh, data engineers could probably build the notebooks with the Spark engine, and then they wanted to do the required transformations once they get in the raw data, and once it is curated, then I think they can push it to, let's say, warehouse systems, right? Warehouse, and then the BI teams can probably build data models on top of it, and then build their reports and dashboards out of it. And I think there are a lot of fragmentation in a traditional setup, right? So I think that's where Microsoft wanted to eliminate, because there could be a lot of data movement here and there, between departments between different storage engines, right? So to leverage or to kind of build those downstream processes, you can say, right? So that's where Microsoft wanted to solve this, and they came up with this concept of OneLake unified storage to eliminate that kind of a data silos completely, right? So that you have the underlying data stored, and then different compute engines, as I mentioned, be it warehouse, SQL engine, or the Spark engine or Power BI, any engine, compute engine can talk to the data and extract the data and do the required downstream processes and then take it to the presentation layer, you can say. So that's the core idea. Probably you might be already aware. Okay, so but I wanted to highlight why unified storage in first place, right? So what is the problem that we are trying to solve? What is the problem that Microsoft is trying to solve with this technology, right? So that you need to understand. And the second thing is, as I mentioned, cross-engine querying without data duplication. So that we already talked about. So this essentially solves, with shortcut technology, right? That we are going to see shortly. Uh, we are going to completely eliminate the data duplication. We don't need to, if you need to bring in data from Amazon buckets or Azure storage accounts, you can simply create a shortcut, and it's the reference point. It's just the schema that we are going to store. Even in mirroring, I talked about metadata mirroring. So shortcut is nothing but a metadata mirroring. So there are three different types of mirroring in Fabric right now, right? So one is like the pure complete database mirroring that you can do, or the metadata mirroring. So shortcut is nothing but a metadata mirroring. You're just going to have the schema defined, and then the underlying data still resides in that underlying source, and you're just going to pull the data from the underlying source. Only you have that kind of a connection between the two systems, and then you're bringing in the data. Okay, so that completely eliminates the data duplication, and that's one of the core focus to unify the storage with OneLake technology, right? So, and also, as I mentioned, you can use any compute engine, right? So Spark engine, and I think Power BI can, as I mentioned, I'm going to talk about Power BI Direct Lake technology. So that will also eliminate the data duplication again. So like in import mode, you're not going to bring in the data to memory. Okay, so let's say in Azure Analysis Services, and it's quite expensive as well. But I think I'm not saying that's the only solution, right? So it depends. It depends on business use cases. Maybe I think I worked for a client where they wanted to, let's say they have a historical data right from 2019 till 2025 till date, right? And they wanted to restrict the data, let's say only from they wanted to expose only data for the last couple of years, right? So I think import mode is much better, because I can't kind of implement direct lake technology to kind of generate those reports and then render those reports directly connecting to the underlying tables, right? I think in that kind of a business setting or business use case, we can leverage import mode where you can only copy last couple of years data into memory, right? So it all depends on the business use case, but directly technology, if you're completely copying, let's say, all 6 years data from your underlying tables to memory, and I think it's time consuming, and the compute cost wise, it's very expensive, right? So I think directly technology is something businesses can leverage, uh, and I think Microsoft claim is it's quite faster as well. It's much efficient, right? So compared to direct query is much slower, as you probably be aware, right? So I think that's how I think the cross-engine querying, I think, to eliminate that kind of data duplication. So that's one of the benefit or the focus of unifying the storage in Fabric, right? And then the simplified governance, right? So we talk about governance, there are a lot of things we can talk about, right? So be it security, right? As I mentioned, I talked in detail about OneLake security. So there are different layers. Microsoft, they're very careful, and they wanted to focus a lot on security aspect as well, right? So since they kind of introduced this OneLake technology, they have to be really sure about the security part, in an enterprise kind of a setting. So that's where they've introduced different layers of security, be it in workspace level or item level within the workspace, or the the fine-grained access, as I talked about, which is data access roles. You can create custom roles. I don't want to expose all 100 tables. I wanted customers to look at only 10 tables, and then even fine-grained, I wanted to restrict the rows and columns. You can do that, right? So from governance point of view, I think with OneLake concept, OneLake technology, and a lot of security layers in place, uh, the governance is quite simplified for enterprises. And then the lineage as well, like the data flows, whatever components that you're creating, the lineage tracking is also much, much better now within Fabric. Okay. And I think it all boils down to this, right? So why we are doing all of this, faster time to insights. So that's the core focus. We are doing all of this to speed up the time, to make to derive quick decisions out of it, right? So that's the end goal, I would say, to derive some meaningful insights from the reports or dashboards. And we are kind of simplifying the entire roadmap, right? So entire technology process to bring in your data and then curate your data, secure your data, and then finally, produce kind of the reports that you can derive some insights for business. So that's the benefit. Okay, those are all the benefits I wanted to quickly talk about with OneLake technology, and I hope you might have a lot of other points in mind. Feel free to drop a note in the chat. Okay, but there are a lot of other points, but I wanted to highlight these benefits quickly for unified with respect to the unified storage, right? Okay, so that being said, I'm going to dive into three different methods. We'll quickly talk about those three different methods, integration methods. And I think as and when we talk about those methods, we'll jump onto Fabric and then enough slides, okay, at this moment. So yeah, so let me move on. Okay, so the method one, the integration methods, external tables. So we are going to look at the CTAS. You might be probably aware. So create table as select. So the use case here is I do have Lakehouse data, Delta tables, so that I've already probably curated and it is cleaned and ready. Okay, so it is not the raw table probably. In a business kind of a setting, you might have brought in the raw data, cleansed it, to did the required transformation in Spark notebooks, and then the tables are ready. Okay, maybe the final curated tables. Now I need a way to bring it into my warehouse. Okay, and I think uh, so I think it's a bit of like it is not completely we are eliminating the data duplication here. I think it is still with CTAS. I'm going to tell you you're going to kind of refine the data. You're not eliminating the data duplication with respect to this particular method. Okay, it is still going to copy the data from the Lakehouse Delta tables. Okay, and then you can refine it, right? So when you're selecting the Delta table, probably you might not need all 100 tables. Let's say you're having an MDM kind of a table, master data table, right? Um, the customer data, right? Let's imagine, you might have 100 columns for customer and you no need all of those 100 columns to bring it into your final reporting layer. So why would I need those 100 columns? So you can still refine, let's say you need only 20 columns. I need only 20 customer columns to, I need to bring in into the warehouse, right? So for my further reporting process. So I think you can definitely use CTAS, but I think it is not something we are eliminating the data duplication. Again, I'm highlighting that. So it's still going to copy the data, but it is still going to keep your data in OneLake. It is not going anywhere. Again, that's a critical point you need to understand. So the data is still going to reside within OneLake, but in a different probably folder. That's it, different location within the lakehouse. So within the OneLake, sorry. But still the data is going to reside within the OneLake. It is not going out anywhere. Okay, so the concept of unified storage still applies. Okay, so we are going to keep it in OneLake only. Okay, even though we are refining the data and bring it to warehouse. Okay. And I think this will enable T-SQL modeling and Power BI Direct Lake mode. So we talked a bit about Direct Lake. Okay, we'll come to that again. And I think one of the restrictions that you need to keep in mind using CTAS in warehouse, it must be in the same workspace. Otherwise, I think it won't work at this moment. And I'm going to show you that right away. Okay, so I think enough slides. We will quickly jump on to Fabric to look at the CTAS method. Okay, so I hope people are coming in. Okay. Okay, I think I can see only Kalpana. That's fine. Okay, we can. So the meeting is getting recorded, so people can watch the recording later as well. So let me jump on to Fabric portal quickly. Well, okay, so let me first, so I have this, I'm inside the Fabric workspace. Okay, so I'm in my DP600 course workspace where I have different artifacts within my workspace. Okay, so I have two different items created. I have a COVID Lakehouse because this is an end-to-end project that I created. The video is already out there if you're not aware in my YouTube channel as well. It's an end-to-end project with the real data. So I have a COVID Lakehouse and I've also created a COVID warehouse as well. Okay, so just for demonstration purposes. And inside the COVID Lakehouse, okay, I have a lot of no, I built that kind of a medallion architecture pattern with the raw bronze layer, silver layer, and gold layer for aggregated KPIs and all, with the different dimensions like date or location dimension. But the idea here is to, let's say I wanted to bring in the curated data, let's say the gold table into my warehouse for further reporting processes, right? Because I've done with all the curation steps here. I've transformed my data and it is in gold layer now within the Lakehouse, the Delta table. Now I need to bring in the data into my warehouse. How do I do that integration? So that's the use case here. Okay, the scenario we are going to look at. So let me come back to my warehouse. And I think you might be aware whenever you create a lakehouse, uh, a SQL Analytics endpoint will be automatically created for you. Okay, so you don't need to create one; it will be automatically created for you. And why, why, why we are creating that? I mean, why Microsoft is creating that? Just simplifying the process for you to go ahead and do the required data analysis on top of this data, with T-SQL queries, right? So, and it is built on top of warehouse technology. Okay, so whenever you create Lakehouse, you will have the SQL Analytics endpoint automatically created for you so that you can immediately start querying the data using T-SQL and then derive some meanings out of your data, right? So because why I'm saying this is when we come to warehouse, we are going to do that kind of integration based on SQL Analytics endpoint. Okay. And also, I'm going to share this link with you later. Okay, Better Together Lakehouse and Warehouse. And essentially, Microsoft wrote this nice documentation. They started with this SQL Analytics endpoint and how it is useful as well. Okay, for the integration. Okay, that I'll share the link later. Okay, in the chat itself. Okay, so if I come back to my warehouse, right now I'm in my Lakehouse. If I come back to my COVID warehouse, I'm inside warehouse. So on the left side, so you might see I have warehouse, okay, and I think you can see there is no Lakehouse tag here, right? So I think you can always bring in your SQL Analytics endpoint. So when I say I wanted to add a warehouse, what are the things that are showing up, right? So you can see there is a restriction that I mentioned. You can select SQL Analytics endpoint or other warehouses from current workspace only to add for querying. You cannot expect to bring in any other warehouse from, warehouse from any other workspace. That's not possible. Right now, the restriction is whatever lakehouse or the warehouse that you have, you can definitely bring in. Sorry, the warehouse and the SQL Analytics endpoint that you have, you can bring it into the warehouse. So right now you can see I have this COVID Lakehouse SQL Analytics endpoint that I can kind of tag it. Okay, so if I say confirm, so you can see my COVID Lakehouse SQL Analytics endpoint is kind of imported or tagged, okay, to the warehouse here that you can see in the Explorer. Under schemas, you can definitely see all of those tables that you have in the Lakehouse, okay, so that you can see here, right? It brought in all of those tables for further querying, okay? So once I tag that, so here is the command, very simple command. You might be already aware. We are going to create a table in warehouse. So I'm going to say, let's say the table that I wanted to bring in is the ECDC cases. So that's the table where we have the cases from the European Center for Disease Prevention. It is the real data for different countries. The cases recorded, deaths recorded across countries. Okay, and the reported data as well. So that's the data overview for you. But I'm going to bring in this table into my warehouse. How do I do that? From my Lakehouse. So I'm going to create a table. I'm going to name it as an external table and then You can bring all of the columns if you want it, as I mentioned, in a business kind of a setting from, let's say, master data, you're going to bring in only limited columns. You can definitely refine the data and then you can create a table and it's still going to copy that data from your lakehouse. You need to mention the lakehouse and then you can, with the schema, you can bring in the table. Okay. So CTAS will come in really handy if you need to refine your data and then bring it from your lake house into your warehouse layer. Okay, so that's one of the integration method that you can run. Okay, and I think it's already executed and then it is there. Maybe we can delete and then we can redo it if you want. So let me delete this external table or I can drop it. Right, there is no going to drop the EC DC cases external. Okay, I'm going to drop this table. Okay, it's done and it should be gone by now. And let me run this CTAS command, a very simple command. I'm not going to refine it at the moment just to show you, but I hope you understood the business scenario by now, right? So this kind of integration method will come in handy once you have the curated data in your lakehouse to bring in into your lakehouse. One of the integration method I'm saying, okay. So let me run this. So I'm pulling the entire table into my warehouse and it is done. So let me refresh the warehouse. And there you go. The external table is now created and then you're ready to go. So you have the data within your warehouse now. Okay. And then you can name the table whatever you want. And then the data is right there for further um, reporting capabilities, further data modeling and reporting capabilities within the warehouse. So that's one of the method. It's very quick and you need to make sure you are bringing in the SQL Analytics endpoint. Otherwise, I think the query won't work, because we are trying to select from the lakehouse and you need to make sure the lakehouse is properly tagged within the warehouse. Okay, the SQL Analytics endpoint is tagged. Okay, that's one thing you need to make sure. Okay, so let me come back to the presentation. That's one of the method. And then now we will look at the second method. Okay, let me present it again. Okay, so what is the method two? So shortcuts, right? So we talked a bit about it. I'm going to show you and talk a bit about shortcuts because this is one of the integration method where you can, let's say, bring in data from external sources or even within the internal sources from OneLake. If you, let's say I wanted to bring in the data from my warehouse to Lakehouse for a particular use case, right? So a business use case. You can definitely do that. You can create shortcuts and bring in the data from warehouse within the internal OneLake or from other external sources as well, right? So that is definitely possible. And I think you can browse the warehouse tables from Spark using Delta Parquet APIs that we are not going to look at in this demo in the interest of time, but probably in another opportunity we can look at it. And I think shortcuts, it's great for lineage, as I mentioned previously, right? It is, you can do a kind of exploratory analysis if you want. You don't need to duplicate the data from external sources readily, very quickly you can create your shortcut within the Lakehouse and then look at the data, do some exploratory analysis. Okay, so very simple with respect to creation within the fabric, but I think a lot to understand regarding the underlying groundbreaking technology, I would say, right? So coming back to fabric, so let me go back to my lake house. Okay, so that could be many shortcuts, and I'm going to show you how we can, if you haven't created one such before, right? So, and I think you cannot create shortcuts within warehouse. Okay, so you cannot do that. You can clearly see that, within the warehouse experience. If I click on table, I can create a new table, clone the tables, but there is no option to create a shortcut. But I think the experience is only available within the Lakehouse at the moment. You can link, create shortcut to external sources or within the internal sources as well. Okay, so if I click on three dots in my schema, you can see you can create a new table shortcut. So let me click on that and just give me a moment. Wait, give me a couple of seconds. Okay, yeah, sorry. Okay, well, so once you click on new shortcut, as I mentioned, You can bring the data from your internal sources from within OneLake from different across workspaces. This is not scoped to any particular workspace. Again, across OneLake from different workspaces, you can bring in your warehouse tables or other lakehouse tables. Definitely possible. Or external sources, you can already see that there are you can bring in the data from Azure Gen 2, Amazon S3 buckets, and Google GCP Cloud Storage, Dataverse Power Platform. I think those are the external sources supported at this moment, but definitely we can bring the data from external sources as well. But let's say once you click on Microsoft OneLake, as I mentioned, you can see here across workspaces, you can see the workspaces have different workspaces, and almost all of the components are accessible to you. Okay, to select the data source and then bring in the data. Okay, so but let us quickly see one probably in my warehouse. Let's say the other way around. We talked about CTAS to bring in the data from Lakehouse to warehouse. Now I wanted to bring in the data for one of the business use case. I wanted to probably do some exploratory analysis uh, in the table that I created in warehouse, right? So probably, okay. So that is definitely possible. Let's say, I have this table called warehouse beds in my COVID warehouse, okay? A very simple table with some dummy data, hospital ID, total beds, and occupied beds. And this is the table that we have created within the warehouse. Okay, maybe during data modeling, you might have created this table, or imagine you have done that. But I wanted to do some exploration using, let's say, Spark notebooks. I wanted to bring in this into my Lakehouse. How do I do that? You can definitely create a shortcut, right? So without any data copy, still it is within the OneLake. The data is not going out of anywhere. So you can leverage shortcuts to bring in the data. So if I go back to Lakehouse, so I think the shortcut is already created. Let me delete it, and then we will see how do we do that. So let me create new shortcut. Okay, sorry. New table shortcut. Then internal sources, OneLake. And you can see my warehouse is there. COVID warehouse, which is in Central India region. In my workspace DP600, and I'm going to click next, and it opens up the tables for you. And I'm going to choose this table I wanted to bring in, because this is the table you remember we created using CTAS to bring in the table from Lakehouse to my warehouse as external table. Now I know I need this table within my Lakehouse, so I'm going to create a shortcut pointing to this table. Now it says, this is the icon that says it's a shortcut, and you can see the source information. Okay, then click on create, and it should create the shortcut. Okay, there you go. I think the shortcut is quickly created for you, and then you can do the data preview. You can look at the table view, file view, and then you can also manage the shortcut, which I'm going to show you now. Right, so let the preview be loaded. I think this shouldn't be taking this much in 10 seconds, probably. We don't have much data here, it's only dummy data. And you can always look at the file view as well. And I think even in the file view, you can see it is a shortcut pointing to the underlying source, which is still within the OneLake. Okay. And I think if you click on this three dots in shortcut, you can always manage a shortcut. Click on manage shortcuts, and I think you can always edit some variables and edit the properties. You can see the target workspace information, and I think the target path you can see, and the shortcut location when you modify it. And I think all of those information you can definitely see that. In case if you need to edit any of the properties, you can definitely do that. Okay, and you can manage the shortcut as well. Okay, so great. I think that's shortcut for you can leverage even to external sources and then play around, do some analysis on top of the data. And then if you want to do some exploratory analysis, it's readily available for you. Okay. So that's about shortcut. Okay. So a brief about it. Okay. So let me come back to the presentation real quick. So I think we talked about two methods by now, right? So one CTAS to bring in your data from Lakehouse to warehouse, and the other way around, you can leverage shortcuts not only for that scenario, but also for external sources, as I mentioned, right? So you can definitely leverage shortcuts to achieve that kind of governance, simplified governance, I would say, right? So what's the third method? Okay, now as a part of cross-engine queries we talked about, uh, there is this built-in function. Imagine a business case where you have data, let's say a CSV file or Parquet file stored within, let's say, your storage account. Let's say I have the data files in my ADLS Gen 2, or probably some of the other systems push the data into my data lake Gen 2, and then the files are residing in my data lake Gen 2. Okay, imagine that. Now, before I bring in the data into my OneLake, right? So because I definitely need to bring in the data into my OneLake. If that needs to be part of the analytic solution that you're building within Fabric, right? But even before bringing the data into OneLake, let's say if I wanted to have a look at the data, or I need to do a kind of a lightweight data preview, let's say, right? Um, or I need to do some kind of ad hoc external ingestion, and then do a preview, and then do some exploratory analysis again, right? See, shortcut you can leverage once you have the data loaded within the OneLake. You can definitely, or even from external sources. Again, there is a so kind of a thing you need to understand. So even with external shortcuts, definitely you can connect to the external source. Okay, that's one of the method. It is not the only method. Even we have this OpenRowSet function where you can use this function within the warehouse to access the external Azure files. I think right now the support is for CSV and Parquet files stored in the external storage. You can do a lightweight data preview real quickly. Okay, so but I think if you can also leverage the external shortcut as well. Okay, but I'm not going to go through that process. But I think you can also connect to external sources, as I mentioned, to ADLS Gen 2 or other buckets, right? But I think this is one of the option. Okay, so even OpenRowSet function will also come in handy within uh, well within the warehouse. Maybe I think you can think of it like if you want to, let's say, leverage. um connect to the external source, and then do some analysis within your Spark notebook, let's say, then you might create a shortcut within the Lakehouse. But I think OpenRowSet is not something you can leverage within the Lakehouse. This is something you can create within the warehouse query experience, and then you can connect to Azure files. I think there is a distinction again if you have a question, right? So shortcut, external shortcut, okay, you can definitely leverage probably within Lakehouse, and then connect to the data lake Gen 2 if you have external files, and then do some analysis. But open process is purely something you can leverage within warehouse to talk to an external Azure files, be it CSV or Parquet files, and then you can have a lightweight preview. Okay, so don't use probably the shortcuts with OpenRowSet function. Probably those two are kind of designed for two different purposes, right? So as I mentioned, probably external shortcut is probably within the Lakehouse experience, and OpenRowSet you can't leverage within Lakehouse. So you can probably leverage probably within the warehouse, and then have a lightweight data preview. I think maybe that's why Microsoft came up with this. I think this technology within warehouse, right? So, and they wanted to have a kind of a similar experience within Lakehouse to avoid the data duplication. That's why they came up with the shortcut external sources as well, to make things easier for you, right? So let me go back to Fabric to quickly show you this capability. Again, OpenRowSet function. So if I come back to my warehouse, right? So let me go down to queries. My queries. Okay, there you go. I think the syntax is quite simple. I'm right within my warehouse. Okay, and I'm going to say I already have this file. Okay, the same ECDC cases, COVID cases in Parquet file, stored in test container in one of my storage account, DWM storage account. And I think you need to be careful. I think you need to make sure you have the required permissions, whether the data is exposed, right? So right now I have kind of anonymous access to my storage account just to showcase this demo. But in an enterprise kind of a setting, you might probably have tight controls, security controls for your storage account. So you need to make sure you have the required permissions to kind of open up that connection from here. Okay, so that you can between the Fabric and the storage account, you need to make sure you have the required permissions to talk to the data. Otherwise, I think this will throw an error. So the syntax is quite simple. The OpenRowSet, you can say select from OpenRowSet, then open the parentheses and say bulk. Then in the closed single quotation, you can pass the entire the file path, I would say, right? That is stored within the container in your storage account. And I think you can alias it as data. So it's very simple uh, syntax. Okay, but you need to make sure before you run the query to do that lightweight data preview with the file that you have stored. uh, I think you can practice with anonymous data access, but in enterprise kind of a setting, you need to make sure you have the required permissions. If you have, if the storage account is part of the virtual network, if you have a private endpoint created, and I'm not going to get into the networking, but make sure you have the required permissions to access from within the fabric. That you need to make sure before you use the OpenROSET function. Okay, so let me run this and then see what I get back. There we go. Boom. Right. So you have the data. I'm reading the data right from the file directly, okay, within my warehouse, right? So the same, I haven't brought the data into my OneLake yet. I haven't created any tables. Okay, nothing yet in OneLake. Still the data resides in my Parquet file in my container only. With this OpenROSET function, I can write all the T-SQL queries to do some analysis on top of the data without even kind of copying the data into my OneLake itself, right? So you can do that kind of exploratory analysis and then decide, okay, now the data is okay. I have done my analysis. I can bring the data into my OneLake, right? Then you can go ahead and let's say create a shortcut within your Lakehouse, access the data and curate your data and then move forward, right? So that's OpenROSET for you. The third method, which I wanted to show you to kind of leverage how you can avoid that kind of a data copy and then do a lightweight data preview. It is not only for the Parquet file. Again, if you have CSV files as well, it is still supported. The OpenROSET function is supported for both Parquet files and CSV files as well. Okay, and you can play around. You can write all of the the T-SQL queries you can write, and then you can do the required analysis, right? Just give me a moment. I'll be back. Okay, great. I think those are the three methods I wanted to show you. Let me come back to deck. We'll talk about few and then jump on to the critical part, the criteria I talked about when to choose warehouse and lakehouse with the Microsoft documentation. So a few Microsoft documentation to go through, and then we will wrap it up. Okay, so yeah, let me open the presentation. So we looked at three different methods. Well, and then few things to talk about the design guidelines. I'm going to switch to the Microsoft documentation as well. So you can think of use cases already, when you need kind of a hybrid setting, you can store the raw and curated data in your lakehouse in a medallion architectural pattern, and then you can serve your model data sets via warehouse, as I mentioned. So I think we are going to look at one use case quickly in the next slide. Okay. And then you can apply different security mechanisms like at the row level or column level at your warehouse layer, and then you're completely eliminating the data movement or minimizing it, and then you can leverage the shortcuts as well, right? So those are some of the design guidelines I wanted to highlight, where you can keep in mind during your design phase, I would say, right, in an enterprise kind of a setting, right? So that's the design guideline. And one of the use case, I've done an end-to-end real-time stock market analytics course in my platform. It's an end-to-end course. So I think we haven't leveraged a kind of hybrid setting, but you can think of it already, for a stock market kind of a scenario. You can bring in the raw ticker data into Lakehouse, and then you can curate the data. And then once in a medallion architecture, once the data is curated, you can push the data into a warehouse to serve the real-time metrics to Power BI, right? So you can already think of one of the use case with unified governance, with OneLake shortcuts we already talked about, right? So you can think of many use cases, but this is one of the use cases which I wanted to highlight, and we have already done an end-to-end course in the platform, and it is out there if you want to have a look. Okay. And let's move on. Okay, sorry. And what are the key takeaways? So we are nearing the end of the session. So OneLake is the foundation, right? So you need to keep that in mind. So I think it's how you can use, you can instantly create the artifacts in Fabric without without any proper understanding on the foundational concepts like OneLake. There is no point of going ahead and create those Lakehouse and Warehouse items or components and then jump onto it right away, right? So you need to have that kind of a mindset to have the design in place and kind of having that clarity what OneLake as a technology, and then how you can leverage this unified storage, right? So that's the foundation for both the engines, right? And I think the integration is quite flexible and easy. Microsoft made it easy for you with external tables, shortcuts, be it or OpenRowSet from Warehouse itself. It's quite easy. And I think you have to choose based on performance, security, and ease of use. So again, it's all it's going to depend on the business use case, the performance wise, security wise, you have to think about it and then make the design choice. But we are going to look at the criteria shortly in the Microsoft documentation. I'll switch to that shortly. It enables true Lakehouse plus Warehouse synergy for you, right? So those are the key takeaways from this session you need to take away, right? So, okay, let me come back to the documentation before we wrap things up. I'll come back to. Okay, so I'll share these links with you. Okay, even in the chat. Okay, the OpenRowSet, you can read about it later if you want to read about it in detail. Okay, I'm going to share that in the chat. Okay, let me put that in chat for you. That's OpenRowSet documentation if you want to read more about it for the lightweight data preview. And then this link also I wanted to share with you. Better together Lakehouse plus Warehouse, right? So this is also a useful article that you can read to kind of enable that integration. Now let me show you. Okay, let me minimize this. So I wanted to show you this design part. Okay, there you go. So I think this is Fabric decision guide. Okay, so here how you can choose between Warehouse and Lakehouse. Microsoft provided some of the criteria, which we'll quickly look at. So let me probably enlarge this for you. Okay, so there are three different criteria, right? So think about the skill sets that you have in team. How do you want to develop? That's the first criteria. You should have this question in mind because when you have T-SQL experts in your team and then probably you are kind of building your lake house and then ask them to kind of build the Spark notebooks, but still there is an API for Spark SQL. It's still possible, but if you need kind of a T-SQL, purely T-SQL kind of experience, you wanted to build your solution purely with T-SQL, then I think the Warehouse is the solution for you. And if it also depends, it's kind of tightly integrated, the different criterias, because you also need to think about what type of data are you analyzing, right? So if I'm analyzing, let's say, I don't know, or if I'm analyzing unstructured data, let's say, and if I say, I have only T-SQL experts and I'll go with Warehouse, that doesn't make any sense. So you have to also make sure what type of data that you're analyzing, whether it is structured, and you have T-SQL experts. If you want to develop with T-SQL, go for Warehouse, right? Or if you want to build with Spark engine, you definitely, if you want to leverage Spark, go for Lakehouse, right? And I think the data complexity part on the right side will come to this part, but I think if you have unstructured as well as structured data, it is always ideal to go for Lakehouse because you might have structured data today, or probably you are expecting the unstructured data going to come in at a later point in time. Then I think Lakehouse is a better choice, I would say. You are preparing your solution for, or preparing your solution for scalability, right, in the future as well. So you can always go for Lakehouse, or if your data is purely structured and if you're not expecting any future unstructured data to come in, you can go for Warehouse, right? So, but I think Lakehouse is like a safer option. Even if you have structured data, it is not like, when you have only structured data, you shouldn't go for Lakehouse. You can go, and even if you want the solution to be supporting the unstructured data or semi-structured data in the future, it will definitely be useful, right? So you can definitely do that. But again, there is this third criteria which you need to keep in mind. If you need to have kind of a multi-table transactional support, then I think Lakehouse won't support that, right? So imagine that kind of a scenario where you have the skill sets, and I think, even if when I have a structured data, and if I probably foresee some unstructured data later, but I don't have a visibility, but the data at the moment for my in my hand, it is curated and it is structured, and then I wanted to have multi-table transactional support, right, with the SQL engine. Then I need to go for warehouse, right? I cannot go for Lakehouse and then expect the multi-table transactional support. Okay, those are all warehousing needs, right? So you need to definitely go for warehouse and then leverage the multi-table transactional support as well. Okay, so those are three different criteria at a glance for you to highlight. So you can definitely go through this as well. Choose the candidate service. I think I'm not going to go into detail about it, but I hope you have got an idea. But I'm going to share this link as well with you in the chat. Okay, and I think probably people who will be looking at the recording, I will also make sure to share these links. Probably if I upload this video in the YouTube, I'll share the link in the description as well. Okay, so that it will come in handy. Right. Okay, so before we move on to Q&A, I think I know only Kalpana is there. Okay, so thanks for being there. Let me go back to the presentation. Few things before we jump on to the Q&A if you have any questions, okay, that I can take. So continue your learning journey. So I strongly believe in continuous learning. So that's why every week I kind of do this deep dive. I do the required groundwork and curate the decks and required demos for you to gain some knowledge and implement. The key idea is to implement in a kind of a practical setting, right? And I think you can definitely enroll in a full course if you want. There are 3 end-to-end courses out there in the school. You can check out this link, learn.databeyondsolutions.com, and explore the courses. Or if you want me to do one-on-one coaching, I'm out there, okay, with the products. And if you want to join our membership as well, I'm going to show you for weekly demos, or we are running a cohort 6 weeks guided program as well for beginners. Even if you're intermediate or expert, if you want to join 6 weeks fast track program as well, there are 3 different tracks that you can leverage. You can contact me anytime. I'm here to help you on that. And I think we are also exploring the practice labs at the moment. People are struggling with setting up the fabric trial. I heard a lot about it. So I'm running a poll to hear from the students the struggle they are having. So I wanted to solve that with the practice labs with the predefined environment to solve the headache, the setup headache for them. Okay, so that is also in the process. Okay, so stay connected. I have a YouTube channel with a lot of videos I'm posting on weekly basis as well. And even this recording will also be out there in the YouTube with the in the description, all of the links that I have shared in the chat. So please feel free to reach out to me. And if you have any questions, you can ask me, okay, or comment in the YouTube video, when this recording is uploaded. Okay. And that's the membership for you. So I'm actually giving it as a 14-day trial. We have 2 different tiers in Data Beyond Academy. One, the basic tier, which is $10 per month. You'll have access to this the weekly live inner circle calls. Right now I'm opening this up for everyone that you're hearing me today. You will be engaging with me in this kind of a session every week, Saturday, 7 to 8. You'll be part of this live calls focused on different topics. As I mentioned, we are running this OneLake series. Then we will dive into semantic models and different topics. Okay, so it's going to be a topic focused. And if you need, you will also be gaining lifetime access to 3 course bundle. Okay, end-to-end courses, stock market, COVID courses, and then the healthcare operational analytics. And weekly call recordings within your membership dashboard. And you can also participate in the polls. You can tell me what you want to hear in the future session. Okay, topics in the deep dives, and command-based support as well. And in the pro tier, everything is included in the basic, plus you will have access to Clara, the Data Beyond, our flagship AI tutor for instant learning support. Right now, it is in pilot mode. We are leveraging the stock market real-time course. We have trained with that course. It's a chat GPT kind of a style app, okay, the platform we built, but it is intelligent enough to answer all of your course-based questions. We have trained only with the course materials, and it is context aware. It will answer you all of the course-related queries for you. Okay, you don't need to wait for human support, and you will have access to the demo files or any architectural diagrams or any notebooks that I create as a part of the process. You will gain access to all of that in the pro tier, and you'll have access to private community and priority access to new features, beta content, and hands-on challenges as well. Okay, so I'm going to share okay, the link, the different membership options and the school URL with you. You can go through it anytime, and you can reach out to me if you have any questions around it. But yeah, please have a look at it, and I'm always here to help you on that as well. Okay, so I'm just sharing the landing page as well as different membership options. With yearly you will have 25% discount. Okay, so out of $100 for basic, and pro yearly you will have 25. If you're going for yearly, you'll have 25% discount. So if you want to have a long term, see, I think it's something you can cancel at any point in time. You'll have 2 weeks trial. You're not going to pay anything upfront. You will have access to all of the experiences I mentioned for 14 days. You can cancel it anytime if you're not kind of gaining any value out of it. I promise you, it's going to be really engaging and valuable each session and each video, each course that I build in the academy, right? So that's the core mission, as I already mentioned to you, to kind of bridge the gap between between theoretical knowledge and the practical application. Okay, so as much hands-on as possible, right? Well, that being said, I'm done for today. I think we are 5 minutes over time. I think I'm ready to take up questions. Yeah, let me come back to the chat window. Well, I think I can see only Kalpana. Okay, so Kalpana, feel free to drop any questions you have in today's topic related to OneLake or different integration methods we looked at to integrate Lakehouse and Warehouse. Or even if you have any questions later, I'm always available. You can reach out to me. I'm glad to help you. Okay, so you want me to unmute? I'm not sure. I think my team have those restrictions. Let me see if I can unmute you. Okay, I think I can do it. Yeah, so let me allow. Yeah, you can unmute and talk, Kalpana, now. Please feel free to do that.
Yeah. Hi, Mohammed.
Hi, Kalpana. How are you?
Yeah, good. Thank you. And
Okay,
thanks for the session. I mean, it was really a great session and it was very useful as well. So
I'm
I have
glad.
a
Yeah,
question
yeah.
here, frankly
Mm,
speaking. So, I mean, I know now, like we've got three methods for
mm,
CTAS, shortcuts, and OpenRowSet. So
mm,
what if we have meta-driven data, like we have a meta table which has both incremental and full load. So
mm.
if that is the case, can we be able to use CTAS for full load? Sorry, for incremental load?
CTAS for incremental load. I think it's definitely possible, and I'm going to look that for you and do the probably kind of do some groundwork and come back to you. I think it's as far as my knowledge, I think I haven't encountered that kind of a scenario, but I think it's
Mhm.
definitely possible. You can use CTAS. See, it's basically the idea here is to um, kind of bring in the data, but your scenario is to bring in the incremental data from let's say Lakehouse into Warehouse, if my understanding is right. Is that right?
Yes, that's what my question was.
Okay, but why do you want to do that? Thinking about it, so you might have, let's say, Lakehouse, and you might bring in the raw data, let's say, incrementally from your APIs, different APIs, let's say, and you might have the data landing zone already in Lakehouse, and you might curate the data in the medallion architecture. You might have the
Yes.
medallion architecture already in the Lakehouse, let's say. Okay. And I think probably that pipeline will run, and you might be bringing your data into your silver layer and then gold layer. and then you probably might be pushing the data. You might want to push the data into warehouse, right? So that's what you're looking
Yes.
at,
Yes, that's
right?
right. So I have
Yeah.
both my
Mm.
raw and silver tables
Okay.
in Lakehouse, and I'm
Mm.
trying to move them into warehouse and create table and write CTAS for full loads, which is
Okay.
possible. But when it comes to the incremental table, so how are we gonna, use CTAS? So if we use CTAS,
Mm. Mm.
what are the prerequisites are, we need to take care of? Because we
Mm.
will be getting only the latest uh, incremental data according to the
Absolutely.
last
Yeah.
timestamp.
Correct. Yeah, I think that's
Okay.
a great question, Kalpana. Let me come back to you on that question. Okay, so I
Hmm.
think I have your probably I can email you, or
Hmm.
let me check and come back to you. I think that's a great question that you asked. Thanks for the question. So
Yeah, sure.
I'm unsure at the moment, how we can probably achieve that kind of incremental functionality with CTAS, or if it's even possible in the first place. But let me probably look at it and come back to you for sure. Yeah,
Yeah, sure. That's
yeah.
thanks for that. Yeah.
Thank you, Kalpana. Any other question, Kalpana, from your end?
Right now on this topic, I think that is what I was looking for. But
Yeah.
I mean, I recently started looking at your courses, and
Mm.
yeah, it really, I mean, adds some value to.
Yeah.
I mean, I recently started working and looking on the fabrics.
Okay.
So yeah, so I mean, I'm a data engineer already working in the fabric. So I have recently
Okay.
knowing what fabric is and what are
Mm.
the differences between Azure and fabric.
Great.
So yeah,
Great,
just
Kalpana. Thank you. And glad to hear, and because these are the feedbacks I wanted to hear.
mhm.
Even if it adds some value, okay, I'm happy. Okay, that's all I wanted to hear. But I think definitely I will come back to you on your question. Noted. I'll definitely reach out to you on your question.
Sure.
Okay, great, great. Thank you, Kalpana. And I
Yeah,
hope if there are no other questions, I think we are good to wrap up. And definitely you can explore the membership options if you're interested, or even if you wanted to explore some of the courses out there, the end-to-end courses. Uh, Feel free to look at it, and you can reach out to me for any questions if you are interested. Yeah.
sure, definitely. Thank you so much.
No problem, Kalpana. Thank you so much. And
Yeah.
I think we are good to wrap up. And feel free to, I think this will be like a weekly sessions I'll be opening up.
Mhm.
So look out for the next week's webinar as well. Yeah,
Yeah, sure. Fingers crossed. Yeah.
perfect. Thank you, and have a nice weekend. And
You
I'll see
too.
you in the another opportunity. Thank you.
Yeah. All right. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.